Hey all, welcome back. We are in chapter 3, and this is the organizational development of Los Angeles Community Action Network. The organizational development has 3 different components. The first is to build healthy staff. The second is to be a productive organization with resources, and the third is to build strong campaigns. LACAN has been building organizational infrastructure to expand and promote civil and human rights since its inception. Some of these core strategies and tactics that LACAN utilizes are community education, grassroots policy development, civic engagement, and community-based research. One example of the implementation of these 5 strategies was the publishing of a community-based research project referred to as The Dirty Divide in Downtown Los Angeles, a call for public health equity, which was published in March of 2013. This report exposes the lack of resources in Skid Row, such as clean public restrooms, access to clean water, trash cans, and trash collection east of Main Street. This report offers the information for Los Angeles to shift policies and practices in place around homelessness by taking information from the experts, those who live in Skid Row and experience the failed policies every day. No. With constant pressure from the community, in November of 2015, the mayor and the city acknowledged what residents of Skid Row have known for years, that there is a state of emergency around homelessness in Los Angeles. Homelessness has become a critical conversation at the city council meetings, ad hoc committee meetings, town halls, community and committee meetings. A shift is taking place. In Skid Row, this is the end of a Safer Cities initiative and the introduction of a new program, Los Angeles' solution to crime and homelessness. Reset, which we talked about in Chapter 2, resources, enhancement, services, and enforcement teams is an acknowledgement of the wrongdoing and a tactic to regain community support and trust. Eric spoke to the criminalization in Skid Row and the language being offered as a solution to the homeless crisis. Because law enforcement is literally so bad with these issues, the notion that you can vilify or justify harming a community by calling them criminals or by calling them crazy doesn't really work anymore. It just doesn't. The general population doesn't buy that stuff. They don't have the leverage with the general population. There's a shift happening around the country where people are not convinced of the rhetoric and stories offered by authority figures in mainstream media. There are many instances of the continued effort to conceal the truth about gentrification and who is to blame for homelessness. One example of this is the Reset program mentioned in Chapter 2. Reset is a new word for the same policies of SCI, policing behavior of the residents within the containment zone, but with new collaboration with other city services and county entities. Reset is supposed to reassign SCI cops into 4 zoned areas of Skid Row. Each zone, distinguished by population and crime rates, will have 1 dedicated team, 2 officers on foot patrol, and respond to officers assigned for backup. Additionally, each zone will have a multidisciplinary team made up of Department of Mental Health, Human Services, Health Services, LASA, LAPD, and peer, working with individuals in need for service of housing. We've already talked about this a little more in depth in Chapter 2. From the LAPD, that's their main line now. We're trying to help, and I always think that's ridiculous. Eric continued, if I was a clinical social worker or a case manager or a mental health provider, I would be so offended that these assholes get to say, oh, we had 30 years of training, now we are outreach workers. Or 30 hours of training. People go to school for this, literally for careers, and learn how to do this, and it's still very hard. So this idea that you're going to train an officer in 30 hours to become a mental health professional or clinical social worker is mind-bogglingly frustrating to me. While the common sense at LACAN and in the community of Skid Row is that this is a ploy, the LAPD is using this language as a farce to continue criminalizing homeless residents. It is still seemingly satisfying to see the city pivot their way out of the harsh reality that they are terrorizing the community. LACAN continues community education to build a broad base of informed residents throughout our communities that possess the tools necessary to defend their tenant, civil, and human rights. One of the things that LACAN educates residents about is the role of the LAPD in the city play in homelessness. General Dogon talks about educating the people about what is really going on with gentrification downtown and the impacts it's having in Skid Row. He says money is not even being put into Skid Row, and that money that is being put is going to the police and shit like that, or they're going to create plans. They make these 25-page reports on homelessness and what we need to do to get out of homelessness, and then this economic roundtable spent like $2 million on making this plan of how to address homelessness, and then they never used it, you know? The money for homelessness goes to the administration and police fees. Eric also commented on the phenomenon continuously presented by City Council. City Council, allows themselves to avoid addressing the criminalization like Cedillo did after they passed the homeless plan. That's one of the council members. I'm pretty sure he's one of the ones that got FBI'd. Anyway, the plan is done. We're looking forward. Why are we talking back? Criminalization is that's so yesterday. Did you see the plan? We're going to end homelessness. Never mind that there's never enough funding. Never mind that it would take 10 years even if they had all the money in the world to build it. The truth is that money is not being put towards housing, but the further criminalization of homeless residents. In October of 2015, an agenda item to allocate $150,000 to the LAPD for their outreach services was approved by the LACAN committee. The LAPD already receives 53% of the public general funds and an additional $87 million from the city for homelessness, which goes to criminalization. It is apparent that the LAPD is pushing law enforcement with the guise of safety in all of the areas it can. Even with community members, activists, and organizers present and sharing concerns in the public comment to disapprove of this allocation of funding, the committee still approved the funds. These are inescapable facts that must be hit head-on, and LACAN is the vehicle that allows community residents to speak up and fight for their rights. LACAN's leadership development is one of the most important parts of the organization, and it takes these facts and the residents of Skid Row and combines the two and produces undeniable people power. One example of the many coalitions LACAN is a part of is the Downtown Women's Action Coalition, or DWAC. DWAC is a partnership of LACAN and the Downtown Women's Center that works to ensure the voice of Skid Row women are heard and that they have a means to act and organize for themselves. Louise Mabella Sinai, or Frenchie, a former secretary and current co-chapter of DWAC, shared her positive experiences and gave credit to the organization. Well, I've been a part of DWAC, and DWAC is the Downtown Women's Action Coalition. It's a women's group that's created by LACAN and the Los Angeles Community Action Network and the Downtown Women's Center. So these two partners with other people created a women's group called DWAC, and DWAC is stationed at LACAN offices. So LACAN's executive staff oversee the dealings surrounding DWAC. The Downtown Women's Center is part of a mission, so that's why LACAN wanted to partner with them to ensure that there was actual action. DWAC provides opportunities to women in downtown and Skid Row. Frenchie shares one memory she had thanks to DWAC. I joined DWAC officially, and shortly after, in October, they told me to speak in front of Senator Holly J. Mitchell on immigrants' rights. Frenchie's from France. I invited the senator publicly to the Downtown Women's Center, and shortly after, she called the Downtown Women's Center and said, Louise invited me, and ever since, they've had a great relationship, and that was in October of 2014. Reflecting on this experience, Frenchie shared, I will never forget that experience. It made me feel so important. It made me feel like a valuable member of the community. And this is what I wish for other organizations would do. It's not just me. This is what DWAC did for me, also giving other women a chance to recognize the value in other women in the struggle, regardless of race, regardless of gender or background, with transgender women as well. Because pain is pain and qualities are qualities. The Downtown Women's Action Coalition performs annual women's needs assessments in Skid Row, where members of DWAC and LACAN and other community volunteers spend a Saturday morning distributing surveys to the women in Skid Row to make sure that their voices are lifted. This year, in 2016, the needs assessment reached over 150 women residents in Skid Row, and the data collected will be used to organize and provide the necessary resources for the women in Skid Row. One thing I didn't talk about here that I would like to add about DWAC is that they always have women's retreats. I think they do it like once or twice a year, where they take women out of Skid Row to a park or to a place. One that I helped organize was like a fashion show. It was when Frenchie's very original and very leadership. And anyway, Frenchie wanted to do a big fashion show. So we got like fabric, like a red carpet fabric from the fashion district, and this was at a park that it was in downtown, but it wasn't in Skid Row. And so we set up the whole park, and the women came, and they were like doing pedicures and manicures, and makeup and hair, and had a big fashion show, and they had, singing and dancing, and it was really cool. So the next chapter, or the next segment of this chapter, is the leadership No, isn't that what we just did? No. Okay, so the next part is leadership development. Okay.